Hello everyone, welcome to this week's end of week video. I'm Freddie, one of the educators on Understanding IELTS, and I'm going to discuss some of the main talking points from this week where we've been looking at speaking. On Thursday, we discussed many of your concerns in the Q&A video. If you have not done so yet, be sure to check out the video, which is available to watch on step 2.2. I'm going to expand on a few of the topics that we talked about in the video now. And one of the first things that we mentioned was how to practice for the exam when you're in a country where people do not speak English as a native language and you do not know any native speakers. Well, Karen provided some excellent suggestions for this in the video, but also in the comments section of step 2.2, Niraj, another of the educators, has shared a link to an excellent site that puts you in contact with people who also want to practice English. And I've also shared this link below in case you want to check this site out. One of the topics we discussed in the video was how to improve fluency, where Alistair emphasised the importance of practice, starting slowly, and then with repeated practice, eventually you will speed up. It's a good activity where you can practice this with an IELTS Part 2 question. So take a Part 2 question. It could be one of those which we share on step 2.10. And you start by carefully planning your answer and then speaking for 3.5 minutes about it. After this, you speak again, but you reduce the time to 3 minutes. But you have to try to say everything you said in 3.5 minutes in 3 minutes. Record yourself again, but reduce the time to 2.5 minutes, and then finally to 2 minutes. You should notice a big improvement in your fluency. However, another thing that was mentioned in the Q&A video was the importance of not speaking too quickly. So when you do record yourself for the final time, have a think about whether your speech sounds natural. If your speech is too fast, you may lose marks for pronunciation. And one reason for this is because of a feature of pronunciation called chunking. This means that when you speak, you break up your language into smaller chunks, or phrases if you like. You can take short pauses after each chunk, or maybe even use a filler like or So if you were trying to say the sentence, okay, so I'm going to talk about a wild animal in my country, for that to sound natural, you'd need to break it up into parts. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a wild animal in my country. And you see that sounds much more natural because I'm pausing after each chunk, and this gives me a little time to think about what I'm going to say, but I still manage to maintain good fluency. We also talked about the importance of extending your answers in the IELTS test. In step 2.8, this is something that many people have done very well for part 1 and part 3 questions. However, it's a little bit more tricky to do this in part 2 as you'll need to speak for a full 2 minutes. This is why the note-making stage is so important. In step 2.10, many people, however, are writing complete sentences for notes. And as Alistair mentioned in the Q&A, this is not a good strategy. You need to make brief notes and try to cover all of the questions asked. You can then use these as prompts or cues as you speak. And I found a great example of excellent notes made by Hussam Talal on step 2.10. I've also shared these in the link below, so please do check out these excellent notes. Finally, a quick word about grammar now, an area we did not cover in much detail in the Q&A video. The educators in the video emphasised the need for clear communication. This can often be done using fairly simple structures, but once you've mastered basic structures of English and can produce them accurately, you will also need to start improving the range and complexity of these structures if you want to achieve a really high score for grammar. As we saw in step 2.6 when we looked at the assessment criteria. Once you feel you have a good command of basic structures, have a look at the British Council Learn English grammar activities regarding clauses, phrases and structures. I've shared this link below. There are several practical activities here that will help you to improve the complexity of your grammar. Okay, that's all from me. It's been a great week and really looking forward to starting next week where we'll be looking at listening. So goodbye.